Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is Emma and Georgia, and today we are reacting to Squid Game Breakdown. If you want to watch our uncut reactions, links to Patreon is down below.
This video was made by heavy spoilers. If you want to watch the original video, the link to the original video will be in the description below as well. I'm very excited for this now because we've already watched the number one clues you missed and stuff, but this one is going to be a breakdown of the whole show and like loads of hidden things that we didn't see, and we were already freaking out about the freaking pictures of the games on the walls, and I'm sure there's so much other stuff we missed if we managed to miss that. So
yeah, I'm sure we're gonna find some bits in here that we did not realise. And I remember at the end when we finished the series, Georgia drew my attention to this article about some of the Easter eggs in it, and that just is what made me realise about all these things. And the deaths are all predicted early on, and we just didn't realise.
yeah,
And I'm sure they're gonna reference it in this video.
if they don't, then that's an extra Easter egg from us.
Yeah, this is the biggest Easter egg, if anything, because every character death was mentioned or just reenacted, foreshadowed at the start, and it's crazy.
When they went back to their normal lives, they died that way in the game. That's mental. I'm annoyed that I missed it, obviously, because I feel like it's so obvious now, but also I just think it's such clever storytelling and I'm really impressed by it.
I love that even after the show's ended, we still have like a discussion to talk about, where it's still ongoing in the conversation. Like, you've got all these Easter eggs that you've missed and you're like, oh my goodness, I didn't realise that when I was watching it. And it's like, it's crazy. It's just like another layer of the show that's being unravelled afterwards, that you're just like, wow, I probably should have picked up on that, but I didn't at the time.
Okay, so Squid Game is packed with Easter eggs, hidden details, and a lot of clues that hint towards its eventual reveal. The show has taken the world by storm, and after watching it 3 times since its release, we've come across some mind-blowing details in it that make it even better. Heavy spoilers ahead, so if you haven't seen it, then I'm putting a red light on the video right now. If you enjoy the breakdown, then please smash the thumbs up button and make sure you subscribe for videos like this each and every day. With out of the way, thank you for clicking this, and let's get into our Squid Game breakdown.
Yes, it looks pretty sick.
Okay, so the opening of Squid Game may be confusing at first. We watch as the convoluted rules are explained and see kids play it, who are of course Gi-hun and Sang-woo. This flashback is key
are they
as it
actually the
foreshadows how the
kids?
game will end,
I
which
thought
was
of
of course
that
with a round of Squid Game.
on the
We
last
jump forward to an
episode. I
adult
was
Gi-hun,
thinking,
who we
can you
learn is a
imagine if that
lifelong
was actually
gambler that's
Sang-woo in
always betting on the wrong
456?
horse. Due to his addiction and need to make his life better, he's actually the perfect person to participate in the games. The idea of him betting on horses of course foreshadows the future, as it's explained to him that Squid Game is very much the same thing, just with people being the ones that bet on. In a way, he's similar to the Southern Gentleman VIP, who keeps picking the wrong contestant. This would foreshadow Jun-ho's death at the hands of the frontman, as the VIP would say, I always pick losers. He picked Jun-ho to pleasure him, only for the character to turn around and attack him. Jun-ho was then caught out in this quote-unquote game of life and death, and he's apparently killed. Though I am still hashtag Jun-ho is still alive. Now, is the lucky
Pause. A lot of people in the episode 9 and 8 comments were saying that they think Jun-ho is still alive because we didn't see his body.
I have heard the same things in general, where people have been saying we didn't see that. It's like an Il-nam situation. We didn't see his body literally die. He could have survived.
I freaking hope so, but I don't think he is, to be honest, because
I'm still holding hope. I think he could be alive. I'm hoping.
I really do hope so, because he was one of my faves. Watch our character tier list if you haven't seen that. But I don't think he'd be able to swim to shore with a bullet wound in his shoulder. So like, I think he probably would have just bled out in the water or drowned or something. Or like, if he was alive, surely he would have swam to safety and then still got it shut down. Like, he didn't appear in the 1 year later at all, and the police never went to the game, so you would think that he tried to get in contact with someone to do that.
Yeah, that's the only part of that theory where it's like, oh, it sort of falls apart a little bit, because you're right, surely in a year he would have been able to sort of, you know, start an investigation at least.
Unless his brother talked him round. Imagine Jun-ho's now the front man because his brother's the leader now.
I would be angry.
Yeah, another big betrayal.
But yeah, I'm holding hope he is. If there is miraculously a season 2 that will come, it would be interesting to see, like, just if he's alive or not.
Numbers of 6 and 8 to win, which they do. However, these numbers appear many times in the show. They always represent the middle of the herd in a race, and the numbers also appear in this fashion just before the bridge challenge. As one of the VIPs explains, everyone goes for the middle, and that is to find safety when threatened. It's better to stay amongst the people instead of taking your own risks, but that strategy also proves to be very, very stupid. 6 also appears again, as there are 6 games that take place over 6 days, and the religious player would later choose the number 6 as it represents the day God made humans in Christianity. Funnily enough, gi-hun won 4.56 million on horse track, and this moment is just some amazing attention to detail. Now, sae-byeok does end up helping gi-hun later on in the bridge game, and this may be her paying him back after she pickpockets him early on. Gi-hun's nice nature would be foreshadowed, as even after being chased by violent loan sharks, he would help her when he thought she simply
hassling her to get his money back, and then in the end he's going to give up the money to save her. Such good progression.
This is similar to how the body parts of the losers in the game would be harvested off, and it lends weight to the theory that they're all actually working for Ilnam. Down on his luck, he needs 10,000 won for a present for his kid, which is the same money he gave as a tip to the betting shop teller. This figure would be constant for gi-hun, as after winning the game and having billions, he withdraws just 10,000 won. The prize itself is in a box similar to those that the dead bodies are kept in, and it makes for an amazing Easter egg in the scene. Now, unfortunately, due to his money problems, gi-hun cannot afford to give his daughter a fancy dinner. She's given what her mother perceives as junk food, and says how her stepfather bought her steak dinner, which puts further pressure on him to get money. Gi-hun's status was too low to afford it, but he would finally be able to have a fancy dinner before the final game, but it was just as miserable as this one. Now, from here, his paths cross with the Squid Game recruiter, who gives him 2 options. Gi-hun can either play as red or blue, and though it seems like a pretty shallow choice, there may be other layers to it. He chooses blue and ends up as a player, but the red card is very similar to the colour of the gods' uniforms. Now, whilst the gods seem like they're in control, they're forced to obey the rules and also killed for even showing their faces. They sleep in cells and are given numbers too, so it is possible that they're all part of the operation, just like the players. The game theme is kept up throughout the gods' CCTV terminals,
if you picked red,
as
could have been a
shaped
god.
like sit-down arcade cabinets. In the series, we learn that it's been about 33 years of games.
No, surely not. Really?
Oh, see, we don't know how the guards become guards and their motivations behind it. I do think that is quite a good thing, because why is it red or blue? Like, why are those colours so significant? But I would think if 456 had picked red and become a guard, I don't think he would have had the conscience to be able to watch this and kill people, unless they just eliminate them for not wanting to do it. I don't know, no, because they make it fair.
I'm not really on board with that theory, because the guards are always so on point in the games, like they've never faltered.
Yeah.
And if you were just a regular man in debt, you'd be like, oh no, we're killing people. I feel like the guards could be in debt themselves. Possibly. They might come from really hard backgrounds. But I don't know. It just seems a bit unlikely to me.
I don't believe that, because I don't think that just picking the colour would determine it, because like Ali or 456, I don't think either of them would agree to mass murder people. It is a good suggestion though. It's a good theory. Point. Yeah, but I don't quite believe it.
So far, so it makes sense that Ilnam would get this inspiration from the popular arcades of yesteryear. The god symbols also have a lot of connections to gaming, with the triangle, circle and square reminding me of a PlayStation controller.
Yeah.
Each shape does have meaning too, as circles are workers, triangles are soldiers, and squares are the managers. The amount of angles on your helmet
Yeah,
also
they're in
denote the hierarchy as
rankings.
well, with no shapes being the lowest tier. The front man has many contours, and the VIPs have a ridiculous amount, right up to the southern gentleman, who appears to have the highest out of all of them, which is why he can do what he wants. Eelnam's mask also has a massive amount on them, but we'll talk about that later on in
Yeah,
the
his
video.
mask is extra.
Now, squares, circles, and triangles also appear throughout the series at numerous points. When the group play red light, green light, we can see them above the gates at the door.
Oh,
Next
yeah.
to the gates are fake metal windows, and these are made up of the shapes circles, triangles, and squares. The
Oh,
card
that's so
also has these
weird.
shapes on them, and the layout of Squid Game is of course made up of squares, circles, and triangles.
Yes.
When Eelnam visits
It's
his
so
quote-unquote house in the
weird.
marbles game, you can also
They got
catch
their
the shapes
branding
on the
on
gates
point.
outside of it,
Yeah,
further hinting to
everywhere.
him being the one who's behind it. Now back to the game, and the idea of people playing with their bodies is set up here, as every time that gi-hun loses he gets a painful slap, but if he wins he gets money. Now I'm not sure how lucky gi-hun is getting the chance to play a game for billions, as I'd have noped right out of there just seeing the creepy doll for red light green light. However, if the series hasn't ruined your life, you can visit the doll at Makaland Horse Carriage Museum. Now,
What?
speaking of people
I'd
whose
quite
lives
like
have
to
been
visit
ruined,
it, I'm not
the
gonna
guy
lie.
whose number is on the card has also complained that he's received non-stop
Yeah.
calls since the show aired, and I
Oh,
feel
no.
so sorry
They
for
had
him.
to blur his
Now, with his
number
mum
in
to
the
the
guy.
end.
recruiter,
Oh,
gi-hun heads off to
horrible.
treat his mother, which is reminiscent of how Sang-woo would ask gi-hun to give his mother money before he ended his life in the final game. Gi-hun goes to get picked up, and the password is red light green light, which foreshadows the first game. Upon waking up, gi-hun
Yeah.
realizes that his number is 456, signifying that he's the lowest there, with Eelnam, the game's architect, being number 1. Eelnam even translates to first man, or number 1 man, giving us an indication of his status. The prize money is of course
Oh.
divisible by gi-hun's number, and this gives us a further clue to one being in charge. Gi-hun didn't pick up on him saying he knew what was going on, and he underestimated him instantly, much like how we all did. The pair also meet with gi-hun standing over Eelnam as he's in a bed, which mirrors the final scene that the two share together. Now inside the
Does.
room with all the beds, we get a clue on the walls as to what each game will actually be. However, in a dark twist of fate, the clues only fully start to reveal themselves when people die after red light, green light. However, we see every single game on the wall, which ends with the final
Not
one
over
being the
this.
Squid Game. Now music is a prominent
It's
part of the
so
show,
clever.
with the song Blue Danube being played before and after each and every game. This piece of music by Johann Strauss II was commissioned and later urged to be light and upbeat, as his nation Austria had lost to Prussia in the 7-week war. This was intended to keep players upbeat before and after the slaughter, much like the citizens of Austria after that
Cool
conflict.
behind the
Other
scenes
parts of the
back.
preamble before going to the game are the cartoony bright coloured stairs, which are similar to images created by MC Escher. His work of infinite and wacky stairs symbolises
Yeah,
the
Wow.
monotony of
stairs.
climbing up for
Yeah, I
nothing.
heard about this.
It matches up here as the contestants are in a loop,
That was the
and
sort of
also
inspiration
most of the
behind
time
it.
climbing up for nothing. Now Eelnam is the key in the red light green light game, as he smiles showing he's happy and more alive than ever. We know he was in hospital, as that's where he would later be picked up from, but unlike the other contestants, he would not be gassed. He is smiling as it's probably the last time he'll play one of his favourite
yeah.
games, and he's enjoying being a participant instead of a watcher. The creepy girl robot has a Squid Game caught hairpin in her hair, and we are treated to another hint that Eelnam is special, as he's not scanned by her. Each of the players gets a green overlay indicating that they're a target. However,
So he
Eelnam is
wasn't
completely
gassed in
fine
the
and probably
car.
not in any danger.
Yeah, we didn't.
Interestingly, the
I
person
mean, we didn't
directly
see his
next to him
journey,
isn't
so
highlighted either, and it is possible
wouldn't
that
have
he has a
known.
protective ring around him so that the machine can't even fire close to him in case it kills him by accident.
Damn,
Now, the
everyone should have
father-son-esque
stayed behind him
relationship
then.
between Eelnam and
Yeah,
gi-hun
can you
is
imagine?
one of the most enthralling parts of the show. When they aren't helping each other, they are always incredibly close and finishing games by seconds. It happens in the red light green light game with Eelnam gloating that he beat him, but it would later reverse in marbles with gi-hun taking that. His deathbed is where the final game between the two takes place, and gi-hun would beat him with seconds to go as the character passes away. Though we will never know if he knew that he lost the game, it doesn't matter,
I
as
hope he
this final
did.
scene shows that people will help one
He's a
another,
loser.
and that there is decency beyond what he believed. It also paints the two as opposites, and sets up gi-hun trying to take down the Squid Game. Now Eelnam also gives a hint that the pair might
He
be
still
related,
has his faith in
as gi-hun says
humanity.
he can't drink the
Yeah.
milk and instead asks for chocolate. Eelnam says that his son used to do the same thing, and that he'd beat him for it. On a personality level, it's possible that the two also echo one another, as both leave their families in order to get involved with the games. Now the vote to continue the game leads to some very interesting moments, and it contains buttons that are green and red. The vote starts in reverse order, which makes gi-hun seem important, but really it's done to ensure that Il-nam has the deciding vote should it come down to it. Sang-woo and Ali spend time together, and this foreshadows their partnership in the marble game.
Yeah,
At
they
this
were
point,
always
the
together.
10,001 appears again,
Always.
as is the amount Sang-woo gives to poor Ali in this moment. Yeah, it's not all you give to him, is it, you traitor? Now, in this hiatus, a number of deaths are also foreshadowed. Dak-soo jumped off a bridge to escape the gangsters, and he would later die after falling off the glass bridge. Ali took the money from his boss, but he was later eliminated when Sang-woo stole his marbles. Sae-byeok would threaten a man with a knife to his neck, but would die the same way, bringing everything full circle from this. On top of this, Sang-woo tried to end his life in a bathtub wearing a tuxedo, and this foreshadows his final act in which he does this in the rain. Dak-soo's minions would turn on him and lose respect for him, just like the marble game, and it's sort of like poetry, they rhyme. Had to do one of those. Now, during the quote-unquote chance meeting with Il-nam and gi-hun, Il-nam says how outside is torture, hinting that he would rather be inside enjoying his creation. Poor gi-hun also meets his ex-wife and leaves his umbrella by accident at their flat. This gives us a hint at him always forgetting his umbrella, which he says is his reason for choosing the shape in the now TikTok famous honeycomb game. Now there's also one key moment here that becomes so heartbreaking once you finish the show. Jun-ho spends the episode following up on leads about the game and tracks down gi-hun and asks him for help to find out what's going on. Gi-hun could have actually put an end to the game at this point, but instead he participates in it and wins.
If Jun-ho is still alive, they could be an epic team in season 2.
Yeah, they would be pretty
epic.
Like
Il-nam wasn't actually knocked out, as we see him moving whilst he should be asleep. We start to see the form of our squad in episode 3, and Il-nam further hints he is powerful by saying he won't die easily, which yes, he won't. He's referred to as the old major who's been in the army all their life, and as we learn, he's been running the Squid Game for years. In another slight hint, Il-nam says that their meals are essentially what his wife would make him and their kids for lunch, which further ties the setup to him. Sang-woo's morality breakdown also starts here in the honeycomb game, as he allowed people to get shapes that would leave them in very difficult positions. Ji-yeong continues his theme of turning on people after they help him by accepting the lighter, and 111's doctor skills are shown for the first time as he handles the game with ease. This makes sense why he's later taken to harvest organs for the gods, and it's nice that it's set up here. The scale of this inside job is shown as one of the gods deletes footage at the start of episode 4, showing there was more illegal activity inside the organisation itself.
I can't believe they took the risk of doing that when they were under so many rules.
Anyway, moving on. Now, some of the characters are fascinating mirror images as well, with sae-byeok and Mia being opposite sides of the same coin. Also, yeah, apologies for butchering all these names. Now, while both are desperate survivors and ruthless, even when helping each other, sae-byeok sees being a lone wolf as the best means to getting to survive, whilst Mia uses her craziness and tenacity to blend in with the strongest. That's why she says she's good at things unless she's not, because she uses other people's skills. As the honeycomb game wraps up, we see how Jun-ho learns the hierarchy as he's scorned for being in the wrong place. Later on, he swaps costumes with his manager, which is why he has power later. However, the doctor is fully in with the gods, and you can actually tell they try and keep some alive during the executions so that later on he can harvest the organs from their bodies easier. Further hints that the game is rigged for Il-nam
so
as
they
the
must
brawl is called off instantly when he says that he's scared. His bed is also the only one that isn't flipped, showing the respect that those in authority have for him.
So
Mia has a little coitus session with the gangster, and he says how he thinks that she will be responsible for his death that night. While he didn't die when he predicted, she does kill him in the end. She is mugged off quite a lot during the tug-of-war game, and is forced to seek a new team who call her.
I just had a thought, what if that wasn't the thin glass and they just like hit it and stayed?
And they fell off anyway.
As he of course played them when he was growing up. Now during the tug-of-war scene, we even see a hint of how Il-nam would have escaped should his team have failed. Each person has locks on them to attach them to the rope, which is of course what ensures you go down with your team. However, though Il-nam initially had locks like the rest of the team, they are gone when he wins. It shows he would have just slipped off the rope if it came down to it. And shout out to YouTuber Maxi Doxy for spotting this really cool detail.
What happened to the
Now, it's
fairness
around this
in this
time that
game,
Jun-ho
eh?
also uncovers the data on the games, and when looking through the files, the 2021 starts at number 2 instead of 1. This further hints towards Il-nam being off the books and actually in charge, as he's not keeping records on himself. After the game, it sort of foreshadows how Il-nam and gi-hun's relationship will go, as the latter gives him something to cover his wet trousers.
Did he actually wet
I think
himself
Il-nam
there?
actually tricked everyone with this, as
No, I feel
beside
less
his head
bad
you can
from
catch
doing
an
that.
empty bottle of water, which he likely tipped over his
He
pants.
faked
However,
it.
Gi-hun is extremely kind here and stays behind to help him. Il-nam then reciprocates it by giving Gi-hun the number 1 jacket, which may foreshadow how he could end up in control of the games. Some have said how this is to protect him, as the gods won't do anything to harm player 1. On top of this, I see it as a changing of the guard, as the most important players are swapping place, and it's very much a passing of the torch. Gi-hun's kindness is shown once more, as he opts to play with Il-nam in a team game, whereas everyone thinks
he said I liked playing with you and
he didn't want
stuff.
him to die
he
due to
clearly
being the odd one
genuinely
out,
liked
potentially
him.
getting executed, and thus he picked him to be by his side. Ironically, Gi-hun's kindness actually quote-unquote killed Il-nam, or at least it ended the game for him. Whilst he didn't die, if he'd simply left him, Il-nam simply would have skipped this round.
That hug
and went through to
feels
the
so
next one.
hollow now.
Il-nam would have
It's just so
definitely known this,
fake.
and this is why the day before he pretended to be very ill and also weak. When the selection process was going on, he also sat at the back, rejected being chosen, and then moved out the way in order to avoid being picked as a player. He's the only one who didn't go looking for someone to team up with, because he knew that remaining behind would be a free pass. Il-nam once more shows his knowledge and connection to the games by saying that the marble one takes place in the area where he used to live. He goes looking for his house and comes across a perfect recreation of it, which lets us know that it was modelled on the home he used to have. Interestingly, Gi-hun also says that the alleyway in it resembles where he used to live, so potentially this is another clue to them being father and son. Now, a big hint that drops here is that Il-nam says he used to stand behind a pole and watch his son and their friends play games together. This was completely unbeknownst to them, and it mirrored the way that Il-nam would watch the players in the game without them knowing. However, he also says that he really wanted to play with them, which mirrors how he would enter the games in order to participate. In the marbles game, ji-yeong is paired with sae-byeok. They talk about the possibility of leaving and going on an island retreat together, and in a brutal twist of dramatic irony, they were all of course on an island together. Gi-hun does show his gambling addiction once more, as Il-nam knows that he will bet it all just for a chance to win. Now, if Ali's death didn't rip your heart out, seeing poor Il-nam die was gut-wrenching, as Gi-hun had to go to the dark side and abandon his morals. Knowing what we know now, it becomes obvious that Il-nam wasn't killed at this point, as not only is he the only player that we don't see die, but there's also no blood or a body when we cut to the wide shot.
No,
Il-nam reveals
that's
himself
also
as
true.
the owl in episode 7, which makes so much sense as we see his hands, which look just like his. The owl is fitting as it's a spirit animal
Old
and is
to bring
wise and
old
fiercely
hands.
intelligent. Having a spirit animal of an owl can bring you luck, which matches up really well with the character as he brings wisdom and luck throughout the entire game. Notably, Il-nam doesn't meet with the rest of the VIPs as he's had his fix and decided that watching is just enough for now. At the end of the show, he said he made the game for entertainment, and now he's finally had the itch scratched, so to speak, which does explain his absence. During the bridge game, we have to mention that it's human nature to hide in the pack of people.
After playing.
This has
Well,
been
how
the
about
theme
you
of
end
the
it
show
then?
as groups formed amongst the contestants, and
Guys,
this obsession with
tapped.
being in a group or team has now become their downfall due to how the bridge game works. Being cautious and at the back finally pays off after being the worst
That poor
strategy,
guy at
and
the
it means
front.
that Gi-hun
I
has
still
the
feel
easiest
bad for
time.
him.
Now, should Il-nam have made it to this point, I think that the lights would have been left on so that he could see the thickness of the glass, and perhaps he didn't want to do this game, as yeah, those heights are terrifying. Once the bridge game is over, we are left with our 3 survivors, and it makes
Don't
for an
show
amazing
this
couple
scene.
of final episodes. They are
Makes
treated
me
like
sad.
VIPs, and then given a steak dinner, calling back to Gi-hun's daughter. Obviously, they have ranked up as the food is opulent, and they're given fancy clothes so they no longer have to wear the green tracksuits. They are at a triangle
would have preferred
table,
the tracksuit.
and if you recall, the triangle is a step above the average worker for the gods. It's a subtle
yeah?
hint they've been promoted based on their game performance, and it sort of just ties everything together. Sadly, my favourite character gets taken out, and we're left with just 2. The final game is Squid Game, and just like the one with the recruiter, they're given a choice of offense or defense. After the last death, we see a big change with gi-hun no longer playing cautiously and at the back. This time he chooses offense, signifying his change to be a more offensive player, which we will also see at the end with his rip-roaring rampage of revenge beginning. Gi-hun ends up winning, and this calls back to the beginning, in which he also took that. Once all is said and done, yay, Gi-hun has his winnings, and if it was me, I'd have bought a shiny Charizard and a hell of a lot of Funko Pops, the limited edition ones, with the chase sticker on them. Now the frontman toasts to him and explains the horse metaphor. Due to the findings at the end of episode 5, we know that he was also a player, and that he likely won because he's still alive. Perhaps he became bored with his winnings, and ended up joining the game in order to oversee it. The front man,
how could you feel that way after
are all
going
people
through
that
it?
ended up
You
putting
sick
their family
man.
to the side in order to be part of the games, and
so
says that there's these little parallels going on with all the characters. The front man is somewhat an opposite to gi-hun, as both are winners, but one chose to participate in an authority role, whilst the other wants to take the organisation down.
Yeah.
I do think that Jun-ho is alive, as he's shot in the same spot as In-ho, and the latter does survive, so it makes sense that he would too.
They may be
Potentially
brothers,
he's had to
but
lay
they're
low
very
for a year to
opposite
wait for the
morally.
games to start again, so that he can gather evidence, as it was all likely destroyed during his escape. Gi-hun withdraws 10,000 won again, with this being the amount that was needed at the start to impress his daughter. After his mother's death, we get a time jump of 1 year, and see that his life hasn't changed all that much. Similar to the VIPs, he's found little enjoyment in the fortune that he's been blessed with, and he's just very, very miserable.
But
However,
he would
the
never
big reveal
resort to
happens,
doing
which
that.
is one of the most tense scenes I think I've ever seen. Il-nam, the surrogate father figure in the game for gi-hun, is revealed to be the architect, and oh my god, who saw this coming? I didn't. I know some of you in the comments did, but I definitely didn't. Now, we learn that he was simply bored and needed entertainment, and I don't know why he didn't just go to space like the rich men in the West. The connection between the pair continues, as Il-nam was a
Get your
moneylender,
rocket and go to
and
space.
gi-hun was of course a victim of them. Of course, each contestant had debts, but gi-hun's was literally as a result of debts to moneylenders, so Il-nam very much forced him through it all as his puppet. They play one last game to see if humanity is truly good, which, thank God, it turns out to be.
He won.
After this, gi-hun decides to go on a revenge tour, and he dyes his hair red. The director talked about this matter with the Radio Times, and said that gi-hun's red hair represents that he will never be able to go back to his old self, and it's also a sign of his rage. Red is of course a colour that was associated with the gods in the games,
Thank God
and it
there's an
shows how he's very
explanation
much
behind that
switched from a
terrible
player
hair.
into an authority position. It's the perfect way to end the show, and seeing the games are still going on leaves you very hyped for next time. Overall, this might be one of the most complex shows today on Netflix, as each setup or shot has a purpose and reason behind it. It's very much a lightning in the bottle series that has struck a chord that's made it a complete global phenomenon. The game itself is of course a metaphor for how the rich play with the lives of normal people, and there's a lot of similarities to capitalism and how many are clamouring over each other whilst the rich rule all.
Yeah,
Overall,
I
it was
think that's
fantastic,
the most important
and if you
message.
spotted anything we missed, then I'd love to hear it below.
It's a lot to digest. But
I really like the what they said about 4, 5, 6 and number 1 were both polarizing their views on the world, and in the game 4, 5, 6 would win if there was humanity and someone saved the homeless man, and number 1 would win if there wasn't. And then I feel like that moment was a turning point for 4, 5, 6 in his life, because it restored his faith that there is still humanity in the world. He's been through such a terrible experience with these horrible people, but there are still good people in the world, and he can still be one of those. He's not the only one. And so like he's got his morals still in place. I feel like the video did a lot of showing how number 1's power was influenced over the whole game, and things that we miss, like with the marble set being his house where he grew up, and like all the numbers meaning things, like the 1 and the 4, 5, 6, and the 6 and the 8 as well being involved so much. It's just these really attention to detail things, as he said, that really make a show like this so good, because all the little things matter.
these things you look out for, and it just shows how much effort's been put into the making of this show. Like, we already know from the sets that this is a high production, and not only that, it's got these small details that just make it that so much better, and it just makes a whole better watching experience in a way.
I'm still hoping there will be a season 2. No announcement yet. I hope the creator comes to his senses and decides to give a season 2. Or
even like a 2-part special, or a movie.
Just something else.
Just something. Because I don't like how it ended on a cliffhanger and open-ended.
That was a cliffhanger. You could have just had him go on the plane if it was a 1-season show. You must have unconsciously been wanting more. Don't know why I'm saying this as if he's going to be watching this video.
Yeah, if you're watching.
On the off chance you are, make a season 2, dude. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you for watching our reaction to the Squid Game breakdown. If you want to watch our uncut reactions to the whole season of Squid Game, the link to the Patreon page will be in the description below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and we'll see you next time. Bye!